Hello and welcome to the Southend University Hospital Going Through Change and the Change Curve podcast. My name's Nick Gerben, I'm one of the Learning OD consultants here in the Trust. And in this podcast, I'm going to be talking around Fisher's change curve and 5 top tips that you can do to take back control during change. This podcast lasts around 7 minutes and can be paused and replayed at any time. Ready to start? Okay, let's go. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. These words were written back in the 1920s, and they still hold true today, especially in the NHS. Many of us desperately crave change at work, and yet we're uncomfortable and even terrified when it occurs. But let's face it, change is inevitable, so we need to learn how to overcome these fears. There are many people who fear change at work for a variety of reasons. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of looking stupid, fear of the unknown. Let's face it, we're creatures of habit, and changes at work move us out of our comfort zone. And actually, did you know that changes at work are among the top life stresses that we can experience? It's perfectly normal and healthy to be a bit fearful, confused, or unsettled by workplace changes at first. In fact, it's quite normal to feel nervous and upset when things go out of our control. The unhealthy part occurs with inappropriate or unhelpful responses. Fighting change, presenting a negative attitude, or ignoring its meaning or importance doesn't make our life any easier. And yet, we're all at risk of these behaviours because it's part of the change process. So on that note, let's talk about Fisher's change curve. John Fisher's model of personal change, the personal transition curve, is a great analysis of how we deal with change. You see, when we see that change is coming our way, our first instinct is to be a little bit anxious. Can we cope with what's coming? But then we start to think about the fact that at least something is going to change, which makes us a little excited or even happy. And that's a great time, but unfortunately it can be a little bit fleeting, because over time our imaginations start to get creative, especially if we don't have regular communication about a change, because we can either bury our heads in the sand and pretend nothing's happened, or we can start to get a little bit fearful, and our thoughts start to be, this is bigger than I thought it would be. And that really does send us down a slippery path. Because it's during this time that anger starts to take over because we feel threatened and hurt by the situation that's been forced upon us. When this happens, we have 2 different reactions. One is to jump ship. That's it, I'm off. The other is to sink down into guilt and then depression. This really is hitting rock bottom. You start to question everything, including who it is that you really are. This is where you either need to pull yourself out of the hole or allow others to help you through it. It's quite common to become hostile when we reach down into the depression spot. The good news is that even when you're in the depression stage, you're not going to be there forever. Because over time, we start to pick ourselves back up and dust ourselves down. That leads us to gradual acceptance. This means that we can see that the future's going to happen and we're starting to work out how it will work for us. This might mean trying new things, it may just mean going with the flow. Whatever it is, it's a step forward. At this point, I should really point out that although I'm saying it's a change curve, be aware that you can slip backwards if something knocks you along the way. So at the gradual acceptance stage, so that we don't slip back into being depressed, we need to hold on to those small steps and celebrate the quick wins. Remember, for many of us, going through change can feel like a marathon rather than a sprint. But the end is in sight. Because as we come out the other side, we finally get to the moving forward stage. And it's at that point when we realise that things are going to be okay. We've survived, it's done, let's get on with it. Whilst I was talking through the stages, you may have had memories of when you've experienced big changes and went through something similar. Well, that's not surprising, because we do tend to go through those key markers. We have a bit of a peak at the beginning, then we go down into a real trough towards the middle, and then as the end starts to come, we start to go back up that curve. Now the thing that's different for each of us is how quickly we go through that process. And this can create its own tension, because if you're just heading down into the anger stages, and somebody's already been through that and they're bouncing back up into the moving forward, it can be really frustrating. But it's really important to remember that we will all go through it at a different pace. So if people are handling it better than you, or if people are moving on faster than you, that's okay. You will get there. So how do you make going through change easier on yourself? Well, rule 1 is to assert your goals. When everything seems to have fallen apart, realise that you've still got options and assert exactly what it is that you want for yourself. Where are your instincts guiding you? What's the next thing for you? Set that direction, take back some control. Rule 2 is focus on everything that's working. When we're going through change, it's really easy to focus on the things that we've lost. Well, don't dwell on everything that you think your life is going to lack. Instead, pay attention to what's going right. Focusing on the lack isn't the option. Negativity isn't constructive. So get yourself a mentor or a close colleague who can keep you on the right tracks, or give you a slight nudge if you're going down that downward spiral. Rule 3 is to take action. Do all that you can in a day. It's simple and it's proactive. Well, this doesn't mean setting unrealistic expectations about what you can accomplish within that period and ultimately feeling dissatisfied. It means using the time that you've got effectively. Set small goals for the day and work towards them. Have a list of 1 to 3 things that you want to accomplish each day that will help you gain control during that period of change. Rule 4. Improve on yesterday. Do something that will make today better than what's come before. What did you miss out on yesterday? Then do it. Rule 5. Really important, don't give up. You might stumble, but know that you'll be okay as long as you learn and you act on it. View yourself as other positive people will view you. Recognise what you're doing well, instead of dwelling on what you wish you did better. So there you have it. We've now been through the change curve and spoken about 5 tips that you can start right now. If you'd like any further development in managing change, please do contact the Learning and Organisational Development Consultants. They're more than happy to help. And remember, you can also access free and confidential information, support and counselling from our Employee Assist programme, KICK. Have you found this learning useful? Consider accessing our Personal Resilience podcast or visiting our Wellbeing Toolkit on iLearn.